Hi, Natalie Ghidotti here. I'm with Lance Turner today. We are here to talk about a fast-growing industry in Arkansas. So lithium is a battery-grade material that's extracted from brine, mainly in South Arkansas right now. It's a huge global demand as far as lithium because it powers everything from our batteries to electronic vehicles. So it is a major economic development opportunity for Arkansas. So Lance actually just went to the first Arkansas Lithium Summit held here in Little Rock. And so we wanted to just kind of talk about what you gleaned from the summit, what is going on with lithium, what are the opportunities, who you saw there, all those things.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, this was a big event. This was the inaugural Arkansas Lithium Summit, a two-day event held at Robinson Center, just over our shoulders here, in fact, and organized by the State Department of Commerce and the Venture Center here in Little Rock, but really also organized by the companies that are really trying to grow this industry in South Arkansas. Some big names that we'll talk about later who are really
and looking for multi-million deals, multi-million dollar deals.
That's right, looking for investments, looking to really ramp this industry up in a big way. You had high-level representatives from all these companies, CEOs, scores of other companies who work already in the area and work with these major companies, local landowners as well who have a lot to gain from this development, and then also representatives from all kinds of industries that wrap around this industry. So education, colleges and universities, technical schools, think about workforce development entities, two-year schools, four-year schools, infrastructure leaders, think about all the things we're going to need in terms of roads, bridges, supply chain, all of that. They were at this event. Investment banks, Stevens Incorporated, BMO Capital, industry analysts, also scientists and engineers that study all the technology and the scientific methods that you have to apply to really make this industry work. They were represented as well. And then you had local, state, and federal government leaders at the event. Of course, they've got a stake in trying to shepherd this industry along in South Arkansas. The governor, Sarah Sanders, was the opening speaker at the event.
Yeah, what was her take on this? I'd love to
Absolutely.
hear that of what our governor is thinking about the opportunity around this.
That's right. Well, it was really interesting sort of how she framed this because she does see this as a big opportunity. She aims for Arkansas to be the lithium capital of the world. And so obviously she set a big goal for Arkansas in terms of how to grow this industry. And then she talked about just how Arkansas is fairly well positioned to capitalize on this and perhaps more so than other states that do have some lithium resource in them. Although Arkansas is apparently exceptional in that regard.
Well, in that we've been already mining
Yes.
in those areas and have those practices down.
Yes, that's
and all
right.
of that.
There's already sort of a regulatory framework. I think that's one of the key things is that we've already got a lot of laws and regulations around this industry, and so that gives us a leg up in terms of creating more rules, regulations around it, and making sure that the industry can grow at the pace that it needs to grow so that we can remain competitive moving ahead. And so that was sort of the big tiers of her message, but also it plays into her holistic vision of Arkansas as well and trying to make Arkansas a great place to live. The end goal, too, is not just for people to come and source lithium from Arkansas, but for perhaps a battery supply chain and a battery manufacturing industry to grow up around this. And that's going to be the key to the real success of that.
Right now, a lot of those battery companies are overseas. There are some in the U.S., not in this area right now, but mainly it's overseas.
Yeah, and a lot of and clearly too, the source of some of the best lithium in the world is overseas, particularly in China. Some 60% of the choice grade lithium is in China, and China is a rival. And so we don't need to depend on potential foreign adversaries and rivals for this kind of technology and these minerals. We need to make sure we can source them here. And so that's a key piece of what she and other leaders talked about as well.
So what did you pick up during the summit that are the challenges to this industry and that really maybe some hiccups along the way?
Yeah, and there were sessions around each of these challenges too. If you sort of looked at the agenda, number one is infrastructure. For this to work, South Arkansas and Arkansas, other parts of Arkansas need a massive investment in infrastructure because if you're going to build up a supply chain, you've got to have ways to get stuff in and out, goods and materials. And so I heard a lot just conversationally from people who already live and work in the area about just the conditions of roads coming to and from factories and places. can roads be built up to sustain all the heavy equipment that's going to be flowing in and out? Just getting from A to B can be a challenge in some places. Also, broadband internet is a pretty key piece of this, and Arkansas is already working a lot in that regard to expand broadband in rural areas. But I heard from one city leader who talked about, we just don't have reliable cell service in our South Arkansas town. And that's a problem.
Yeah.
And so that's an area of or a focus that needs to happen. Bridges, rail, ports. We had representatives from the Little Rock Port at the session as well. Also in West Memphis, they also see some opportunities just in terms of developing ports to get stuff in and out to make this work. So infrastructure is a big piece. Workforce is another major piece as well. Everything from K through 12 education, STEM education, workforce development, all of that. We need to have K through 12 students just get more conversant in the language of this highly scientific and highly technical industry.
Definitely.
And so that is a focus as well as, if we're going to understand these conversations and then be able to raise up a workforce that can actually do these things, we need to invest in some STEM pieces of our K through 12 education, and then also the technical degrees and certifications that we're going to need. And some of that infrastructure, to our advantage, is already in place in these South Arkansas areas because of the industry that already exists there. So we've got a head start there, and that's good.
So clearly there are some big companies that are driving this industry.
Yes.
Were they there at the summit? What is their role? Do they see Arkansas as the land of opportunity like we do?
Yeah, I think they do. So a lot of the major companies were there. The big players were certainly there. CEOs were certainly there. Standard Lithium of Vancouver is sort of the company that you may have heard about that's really pioneered this method of lithium extraction. Yeah. You've always been able to extract lithium, and people do it all over the world. In many cases, it's a very messy, environmentally costly project. But they have discovered a direct method of mining that lithium directly from the brine that's a lot cleaner, takes up a lot less space in terms of acreage, and is just a better, more efficient way to do it. And so that's why all these companies now see this opportunity here, because of making that method work. And Standard Lithium of Vancouver was among the companies that have pioneered this and really here in Arkansas led the way. They were at the session. They talked a lot about their efforts in running a pilot plant. They have a pilot plant already up and running that's doing this. Next step for them is to build a couple of major production sites. And they're talking about investments of well north of $1 billion, $1.3 billion, even more than that. And so that's what they are working toward currently. They've got some partners in the area as well that they're working with. But they're kind of new to the area too. So they talked a lot about, just kind of the community outreach that they've been doing as well. And just sort of the feedback they've been getting from local people who are very excited about this from all accounts. People in the area, businesses, community leaders are wanting to know how they can help, how they can get involved, and are participating in public forums and town halls and all kinds of things. Yeah,
I know you talked to the Magnolia Economic Development Director, and I know she spoke to the Rotary Club of Little Rock that week too of the summit, and she was talking about just the many questions she gets just from residents, and a lot of it is around, hey, I have land. What can I do here? Did they talk about that? Or what?
There was a little bit of that. The biggest questions around land right now have to do with royalties too. And we can talk about more of that in a minute, but that's a question that's kind of hanging out there that should get wrapped up this spring. But she's also getting questions about, where are all these people going to live? And that gets back to our challenges with housing and workforce. And so, these counties and towns are looking for ways they can build up housing in that area. And so that's a challenge that they're still working on, I think, in that regard.
Now, Exxon was at this too. What is Exxon looking
So Exxon is kind of the big shiny thing right now because they're the newest player in the area, and also they are a global powerhouse. Right? They are synonymous with energy.
When Exxon comes to town, you listen.
You pay attention. That's right, and lots of people are paying attention to what they're doing. They're aiming for their first lithium production to happen in 2027 or so, and they're saying things like, if we're going to make this industry work in South Arkansas, we're going to have to invest billions of dollars to make it work. So right now they're in the early stages, but it is very encouraging and a validation, I think, of Arkansas's potential that they have their sights set on South Arkansas and in fact are beginning to work on a commercial operation there. So
Wow,
they were there as well. They began some of their community outreach efforts as well. They've set up an endowment, a local endowment for education, quality of life, public safety. Again, all these things that we're hearing that we need to do to build up this area to make this industry work.
That's great. So what were some of the next steps from this summit? What do you think we'll start seeing? You mentioned the royalties.
Right.
Let's talk about that.
So royalties is a debate that's happening now, or a process that's happening now.
Okay.
And the State Oil and Gas Commission is leading that effort, and they'll determine what the royalty rate will be for pulling that lithium out of the ground. And so you got all these landowners who already have royalties around bromine, kind of wondering what the royalty is going to be for lithium. And here in recent weeks, we've seen the price of lithium fall. And so that's interjected, I think, a little noise into discussion, but it's really about just trying to find a good, workable, fair royalty for everyone, the companies and the landowners. Meanwhile, Exxon and Standard are working toward their full permanent commercial operations. They're trying to get that going. Again, Exxon is aiming to begin its production in 2027. That time frame, I think 2025, 2026, 27 is going to be pretty key to see kind of what's coming together and when for big permanent commercial production operations to really get going.
It really isn't just about the big companies. Clearly, they're important to this, but you saw a lot of entrepreneur advocates there. The Venture Center was part of this, sponsoring this. So what's kind of that lay of the land as far as startups and other companies that feed into the big companies?
Well, startups are looking for their opportunities, right? Yeah. So they're looking to get on the radar screen of some of these bigger companies. They're trying to attract investment as well. One thing we've heard is that it's hard to attract investment closest to the source of these minerals and these materials in the supply chain. So there's a lot of incentives around making batteries right now.
Right.
A lot of those are coming from the federal government.
Yeah.
But the further back you go to assemble the materials to make those batteries, that's where it gets dicey. And so we need to see more investment in those areas. So I think there are a lot of little companies that could be looking for opportunities in that area and trying to get investment in that area. Some companies that are already doing a certain thing may think they can pivot and do something a little bit different to meet a need of this growing industry. So there are people who are kind of shepherding these companies, who are familiar with the portfolio of these companies, who are kind of looking around to see what opportunities there may be for these smaller entities to take advantage and help grow the industry and also help their businesses as well.
Yeah, for sure. And we know small business plays such a huge role in Arkansas, so that's a big piece of it. Clearly, there's a lot more to learn about lithium.
That's right. There is a lot more to come in lithium as this industry grows in Arkansas. And there's a lot more to come from us at Ghidotti about the lithium industry, the growth of this industry here, and what is next to make this thing really take off. So stay tuned.